On this evening's show, we host a man whose creativity, determination, and motivation greatly contributed to the success of one of music's most noteworthy stores, Steve's Music. He has also been involved in various charities, notably the Combined Jewish Appeal. Tonight on Rob's Inner Circle, a man with the heart of a lion. We have another great show lined up for you tonight, so don't go anywhere. Stay right where you are. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Robert DeLester, and I'm the host of Rob's Inner Circle, broadcasting live. The producer of Rob's Inner Circle, and none other than the amazing Jenny DuHaime, and our podcast techie on the show, Patty Lady Starlight Saragosa. We got some big news coming out of San Diego, California. Our past guest, Zach Phillips, was on our show, and he talked about NAMM. And what's going on with NAMM? Well, our friend Zach Phillips from NAMM has shared with us that the NAMM show now taking applications that will be held between June 3rd and June 5th, 2022 at the Anaheim Convention Center. So you want to visit namm.org for complete details. Also, Factor has just announced that their artist development program subsidy for $2,000 is now open for application. For more details, just visit factor.ca. The Daily Struggles sitcom is up and running, and it's up on the Rise Up TV channel on Roku. If you don't have the Roku streaming stick, it's not a problem. All you got to do is go on to amazon.ca, and for as little as $30, you can get yourself one of those Roku sticks. All of the merchandise pertaining to Rob's Inner Circle is available at 514brandingco.com. That's 514brandingco.com. And that's thanks to our collaborative effort with our good friend, Mr. Vincent Gargano. We invite you to go onto the Bobby Short Shorts YouTube channel, check out our playlists, go out and check out our productions. You want to comment, you want to give us some likes, share. Specifically, you want to subscribe to the Bobby Short Shorts YouTube channel. And of course, you want to hit the notification bell, because every time there is a new production coming out, you will be the first to know. It's that time once again, folks. It's time to slip into our weekly ritual to sit back, kick up your feet on the edge of the table, take a deep breath, exhale, relax, and let us carry the load. Folks, it's showtime. It is time to bring on our guest. He's a beloved fellow, one of the greatest people I've ever met, a really nice, swell guy. He's got a big heart, involved in many charities. He's been with Steve's Music for 27 years. He's presently the Director of Education at Steve's Music. Ladies and gentlemen, let us bring on our star attraction tonight. Here he is, Mr. Norm Zimmerman.
Good evening, Rob.
Norm, such a pleasure to have you on our show. Norm, by any coincidence, you wouldn't happen to be related to Robert Zimmerman, also known as Bob Dylan?
Related to relations of his.
Anyways, Norm, it's so good. So how you been keeping busy these days?
Playing a lot of golf. Been networking with teachers for quite a while. And just trying to do whatever has to be done. I mean,
Okay, so Norm, let's go back all the way down to your infancy. Tell us who Norm Zimmerman is. Let's go way back. Let's start off when you were yay high and to this day. Just a little brief summary of who you are.
That's a good question. I'm me. I was brought up to believe that you treat people the way you want to be treated, and you don't have employees, you have associates. And that's how I have always been. I'll never give a direct order. If at all possible, I'll always ask a person to do something rather than say, do this or do that. I try and been successful with my staff to get them to take the initiative. If they think of a display that will look good, go and do it. Worst thing that's going to happen, whatever you're going to do, if it doesn't work, we can always put it back or find the pitfalls and work from there. Don't just be a 9 to 5er that, okay, I'm here. I got to put in my hours and I'm not allowed to think because the company says this is what I got to do.
So, as you were growing up, Norm, you were brought into the business world quite young because both of your parents owned factories. I believe your father had a
Clothing. My father
clothing.
had a women's wear factory
Yes.
and my mother had a women's lingerie store.
Okay, so how is it your parents from a very young age introduced you slowly into the world of business? Because you were telling me that there was always something to do. Even at a young age, you were picking up buttons that fell on the floor and you were putting them into a box. So go ahead and elaborate what it is exactly that you were doing at your young age.
Okay, a lot of times on Saturdays, I go into the factory with my father. And during the week, buttons fall on the floor. And when the floor is swept, the buttons would be removed from the sweepings and thrown all into one box. And it was my job Saturday to come in. I'd have to sort the buttons first by style, then by size, and then put them back into the boxes that they originally came in. And then I got that huge promotion where, for my father, where from going to doing that, I had to go into the cutting room and tie up the bundles of fabric after they'd been cut, the fronts, the backs, the sleeves, or whatever, and get it ready to go out for sewing. And slowly but surely worked my way up that way, working at my dad's place. And if I went to visit my mom at her store, I'd either take the cash or I'd actually help women, if they knew what they wanted, I'd get it for them and bring them through the cash. So my mom was free to serve other people. Again, it's like I said, we were taught, my brother and myself, to take the initiative. Don't sit there and wait for somebody to tell you to do something. There's always something to do. Look and see what you can do to make it easier, whether it's your own place or a very good friend of mine who just passed away recently. My introduction to his father was in their business. They were in the poultry business. And he was putting an order together on a Saturday. And there were 4 of us there. Him, myself, my brother, and another friend. And his dad walked in to see what's happening. And there's my brother and myself in white coats with gloves on, busy helping him sort all the stuff. And to quote his father, what the hell are you guys doing? You don't work here. Well, the sooner that this is done, the sooner we can go out.
There
So
you go.
we're helping. You don't stand in the way. You either help or when somebody's doing something or take the door. Simple.
So, from a very young age, your father taught you that you had to earn your possessions. Notably, talk to us about how you earned that bicycle you wanted.
I wanted what was called a BSA balloon tire bicycle. It's a lot like the ones with the fat tires now. And the intriguing thing was it was a 3-speed, but the gears were in the handlebar rather than that little gadget you had up on the top. And the deal was I worked every Saturday all through the winter for my dad. And come May 1st, I would get my bike. But I wasn't the smart negotiator in those days. I negotiated the bike. I didn't think about the stand, the horn, basket, the carrier, or any of this stuff. And we went in. I chose the bike, British Racing Green, BSA. And the salesman said, "Would you like a stand with that?" No. Well, how about a horn? No. And as he went through the list of the stuff, it was no. And he went to get the bike, and my dad said, "Okay, put the back carrier on, put the stand on, put a basket on the front, and give him a horn."
Was it
That's
an
your
Arnold?
bonus.
Norm, was it an Arnold Schwinn?
No, it was a BSA.
A BSA.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was from, at the time, there was a place on Bloor Street called Bentley Cycle and Sport.
Okay.
And they were importers of bikes from Britain. It's just, I liked it. So I got it. I've never followed the crowd, if you know what I mean. As I'd mentioned to you earlier, I have a Mazda RX-8.
Oh,
Nobody wants to
nice.
drive an RX-8. It's a rotary engine. I love the car.
Exactly. And I think too about the automotive industry. We'll be getting into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
At the age of 15, you made a big splash at your first stint as a salesman. You closed a very big deal for a young man your age. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. The tradition in the clothing industry is that you give one season. So if it's the winter time and you're selling spring merchandise, you tell the person who you're selling for, "I'm not going to carry your line for the spring." My father had a salesman who broke all the rules. Just as the season opened, he decided he was going to go work for somebody else. My dad had an appointment at a very high-end department store, and this salesman was supposed to go see Zellers, which was a medium-priced chain, but he couldn't be two places at once. And he was talking about it, and I said, "I'll go see them at Zellers. I know the product," which I did. I said, "I can go after school. The appointment's 4:30. So I went from school with a sample box and my backpack with my books in it up to see them. The head buyer knew me because she'd been up in the factory. A few of the other buyers found it to be very entertaining that a 15-year-old walks into the office and is here to sell you ski slacks. The only thing is that 5 minutes into it, they realized it wasn't a 15-year-old selling it to them. It was somebody who knew the product, knew the construction, and knew everything about it. And my dad had told me that they're $8 wholesale. I get $1 a pair. That's my commission. And Miss Snowball, which was her name, the merchandise manager, said, "Well, I budgeted $750, Norman. Can we do it?" And I told her, "Well, I don't really know because I got to go back and talk to Mr. Liu. Can I call you tomorrow?" She said, "Sure." And it was for 5,000 pairs of ski slacks.
Wow.
And when my dad got home later that evening, what happened, I told him, we did everything. And I said to him, she wants to pay $750, but, I get $1 a pair at $8, Dad. What should I do? He says, "Let me ask you a question. At $8, how many pair do you sell her?" "Well, none." "Oh, okay. I'll call her tomorrow and I'll tell her everything is fine at $750. I made over $10,000 in commission that winter. My father never said to me, "You're an idiot. You do this, you do that." He always put it back to you as a question and made you think.
So your father, that's exactly it. Like you were saying before we came on the air, actually during the interview last week, you were saying your father always invited you to think And that's what actually honed your skills. It actually developed you into the shrewd businessman that you are today. You're not only working at Steve's, you're also a very shrewd businessman. You know your stuff.
It's not a case of being true. Everybody has to make a living. And especially when you're a purchasing agent. And poor Jenny, I beat her up many a time for as much as I could for a discount. But you have to know when to stop, because the company's got to make money. The rep has to make money, and you have to make money. And so long as the three of you can make money, everybody can do very well from it. There's hundreds of ways of doing things. The trick is to find the easiest way where everybody comes out a winner. You cannot have one winner.
So after you left high school, you actually ended up working at a body shop, and it didn't take too long for you to become very skilled at the craft. Tell us about how enriching this experience was for you.
Well, my father had a very good friend who owned a body shop. What teenager male is not interested in cars? And I'd go in, and they'd show me how to do things, like a lot of dents can be taken out with a toilet plunger. They don't tell you that.
Okay.
They charge you to $300 to remove the dent and repaint. But all you have to do is remove the dent. I was learning that. And at the same time, I was learning how many hours it takes to do things. To change a front fender, in those days, it took 3 hours to cut the fender off. You had to then sand and prime and prep it. Then you put the new fender on, and it took 2 hours to weld that back on. So there's 5 hours of labor plus the part, etc. And you learn that things aren't just snap your fingers and it's done. That led to while I was in university, I had to work. So because I had done the appraisal, I had learned it from Lionel and other people in his shop. I went out with an appraiser for a couple of months, unpaid. I just went to the body shops with him and watched what they did and how they did it, and got the prices, and learned that the magic was called Mitchell, because that was the book that gave you the hours for everything. And then they gave me a try. So I went through university doing this automotive appraisal. Every line I wrote was considered 15 minutes. Every picture I took from a Polaroid was worth $1. And after you do the appraisal, in those days, we didn't have the no fault. The body shop would have to sign off on it to make sure that they were making money and that I didn't miss anything. And the other appraiser for the other insured had to sign off on it also. So there was always a lot of negotiation there. The garage wanted you to give them an extra couple of hours in case of something, and dealing with one of the big three insurance companies, they wanted to make it as cheap as possible. So you had to kind of go back and forth with the appraiser. Okay, you know what? We'll cut a couple of hours here, but you got to give me a couple of hours there. So that, again, it's like anything in business. Everybody's got to make something, and walk away at the end of the day that everybody has been able to put something in their pocket.
So, for those of you who've just tuned in, thank you very much to those who've tuned in and those who have been tuned in since the beginning. Our guest tonight is Norm Zimmerman. He is the Director of Education at Steve's Music. Norm, you're also involved and have been involved in various charities. You're a very generous man by nature, and it shows through the work you've been doing through the charities. So talk to us a little bit about the charities you've been involved with and are involved with presently.
Okay. It started out with my parents. My parents were very involved in the community, in the Jewish community, and taught my brother and myself that we're a lot more fortunate than other people. And it slowly evolved. My favorite thing was we had the Benebruth food baskets. I did this for 60 years. And we got older, so we had to turn it over to somebody else. But we started out by making 100 food baskets at this time of the year for the Jewish New Year to give to families. Then we made it for our Passover. Again, 100 families. And it slowly evolved. Combined Jewish Appeal was involved in it, Allied Jewish Services, GEM, a lot of agencies that have now merged together because there's only so many dollars people can contribute to so many things. And when we turned it over to an organization called MATA here in Montreal, we had over 2,000 subscribers that would get these baskets. And we'd have to negotiate for the food. We'd have to negotiate for the boxes for the food. I was usually there for receiving along with somebody else when the food was brought in during the day. We did this Monday to Thursday in the evenings, and then all day Sunday, packing and delivering. My main responsibility the last 20 years really was the distribution of the baskets. I know the city. I knew how to plan the routes. So this was my job. You came in, you could put 5 boxes into your truck. Not a problem. I'd give you 5 boxes, and then I'd give you 5 homes that were close together or 5 people in the same building. The idea was to get you there fast. So you're going to come back and you're going to go out and make another delivery for us rather than handing you somebody on one street, 2 people on another street, then you got to come back to do that. I always set the routes up so that if you were doing a major street, you'd start on a north-south street. You'd start going north from the lowest address up to the highest, turn around and work your way back south to the original starting point. So it's save you fuel, less time having to look for addresses because everything was sequential and set up for you. And it worked. It was great.
So correct me if I'm wrong saying the name of the charitable organization, the Benebruth, is that it?
That's right. Benebruth means,
okay.
The translation for Benebruth is people helping people.
Okay, you not only help Jewish families, you also help refugees coming in, immigrants. You helped everybody. You were also involved with churches as well.
Yeah, with helping others. When the Vietnamese boat people came, they had nothing. Through the generosity of the Dobrins family, which is Steinberg's, they gave us a vacated Woolworth store to use as a depot where we collected food, furniture, clothing, whatever was necessary to help the Vietnamese boat people that came into Montreal, to help them get started. We did not have organizations in those days like MATA, which works on it now, and others, and other agencies. It was basically the Quanians, the St. Christopher's, Knights of Columbus, Benebruth, all the inter-service clubs, Lions, that did it. We were the ones that looked after all of the people and did that stuff because there was nobody else to do it. They came in, they knew nobody, they had nothing. You help them. It doesn't matter. We don't look at your religion or this or that. With the food baskets, we had one of our members was a vice president of Rothman Cigarettes at the time. He had his drivers, his salesmen, they all had small Ford station wagons, come in on it. It was always a Tuesday evening. Generosity of Lester's at the time. Not Lester's. Levitt, Mo Levitt from Levitt's. He would provide us with smoked meat, salami, stuffed chicken, stuffed turkey, bread, everything we needed, carnazzo, whatever we needed for food. The drivers would come in. Because it was Passover, the food could not be taken into the area where we were working because that food was made specifically for the holiday. And they'd eat, have a great time. Then we'd load their cars. They'd take one of our kid volunteers with them and they'd go out and they'd deliver. And this went on for 5, 6, 10 years. One of the members happened to be a member of a church who decided they were going to do a Christmas baskets program. He had my phone number. He called me. He asked me, we really don't know what to do or how to work. Can you come down and help? When do you want to meet? See, he gave me the address to the church. He gave me the time and the date. 6 of us showed up. I was in charge of transportation. Somebody else was in charge of procuring all of the food at the time. Somebody else had it in so we could get toys for the kids. So we each had our own specific area. So we came down. They were a little bit shocked. Here's these 6 Jewish boys walking in. And they were expecting one. And we went over the meeting with them. I got together with a member of the parish that was a taxi driver. Because who better than the taxi driver to know the area or know how to work it?
Exactly.
And we got a huge map of the area from the city. I showed him how we do it. A couple of our people were responsible for packaging, showed them how you make the package so that it's not too heavy on one side and nothing gets broken. And, maybe if you change this for this, it'd be better for the family. They don't need the chocolates, but they can use potatoes. This sort of thing. And we worked with them for a few years. We came in, did it with them. And as far as we were concerned, after the first year, these guys were doing great. They didn't need our help anymore, but they just weren't quite ready to do it all themselves. So,
you also collaborated. Sorry to cut you off, Norm. Go ahead and finish your sentence. Go ahead.
So after a couple of years, they continued doing it. I understand, like our program, a lot of other programs right now, it folded. Unfortunately, volunteerism depends upon the people. We're all getting a lot older, those of us that did it and that are still trying to do it. But unfortunately, at the same time, a lot of the younger kids do not have the same mindset, and you're finding it harder and harder in any fraternal organization to bring the young in.
And you were neighbors in the original Steve's store in Saint Antoine. You were neighbors with the old brewery mission.
That's
and
right.
You were collaborating with them somehow.
Yeah. We did little things. I mean, Adrian Berkovicki, who is Generations Now, which is a wonderful food program for children that have in underprivileged areas, hot meals in the school at lunch and breakfasts. So, he makes sure that these kids get fed, which is great. Well, Adrian, they have their camp up north. And Adrian got from Steve through me, because Adrian knew both of us. He spoke to Steve, and Steve says, go talk to Norman, he'll take care of it. That was Steve's usual answer when it came to a charity or something. Go talk to Norm, he'll take care of it. And my deal with Adrian was, we loaned them a karaoke machine and discs. No charge. For the summer, but the kids go up to camp on the 23rd or 24th of June. The 24th of June and the 1st of July was our rental department's biggest rental of karaoke machines outside of New Year's, Christmas, New Year's time. So Adrian would pick up the machine on the 2nd or 3rd of July, and it would stay up at the camp until 28th or whenever they closed in August. Never a problem. And I'd go to an event. There'd be food left over, and this started again. Steve comes over. He says to me, "Where are you going?" I said, "Steve, it's 1:00 in the morning. Where the hell do you think I'm going? I'm going home." "No." I said, "What do you mean no?" He said, "I need your help." "Okay." And Steve had gotten whoever the hosts were to give all of the food that was left over to him to bring to the Old Brewery Mission. But it was too much for one car. There were times we go down 3-4 cars loaded with stuff and bring it into the mission. Because no matter what you brought them, produce, they could use it. If they had chicken at the affair, they could use the chicken. They could chop it up, make egg, chicken sandwiches. They throw it and make a soup, whatever. Who cares? They could put it to use. The cooks there are magicians at doing something with nothing. And we did that again. We did that for a long time, Steve, and we had our parking lot, and next to us was the Old Brewery Mission, like along the alley. Well, we had our guy who did our snow removal. While Adrian was there, Steve paid for the snow removal for the mission.
Oh.
That's my property now. You bill me for that.
So, and how do we get in touch with Generation now, Norm?
Generations is on Notre Dame. I don't remember their address or phone number, unfortunately. Adrian or his wife Natalie are in there. They do fantastic work. I'm sure those that are local in the English community on your podcast have heard them being interviewed on CJAD or one of the other stations. They were, along with Father John, were working with the kids. That's their thing.
You're referring to Father John Walsh.
Walsh, yeah. Again, got a phone call. This is Father John Walsh, and I'm looking at my guys. Well, we have some instruments that are broken. Can you come down and take a look and tell us how much it is to repair? Sure, no problem. I go down with one of the other boys. We look at it, give them a rough figure, and said, "You know what? We have our notes. We'll go back. Let us figure it out, and we'll call you." Went back. Steve asks me, "Where the hell were you?" "Oh, I was on Ontario Street at Father John Walsh's place, drop-in place." "What?" "Well, they got some instruments that are broken and stuff, Steve, and they want to have them repaired." "Where are they?" I said, "They're there. I'm figuring out a price." "Go pick them up." "What do you mean, go pick them up? What's the matter? You're deaf?" We repaired them. No charge. No charge, no publicity. That was Steve's model.
So now that we're talking Steve's, we've talked about charity, we talked about your early years and all that. So it's time to get into your work at Steve's and all that. There's a lot of people out there, especially in Canada. If you're in Toronto, you're in Ottawa, Montreal, you're going to know Steve's Music Shop. It's an institution that's been around since 1965. But for those people who don't know about Steve's, can you give us a little bit of a description of what Steve's Music Shop is and what it is that it represents for our community?
Okay. 1965, Steve opened up on the corner of St. Antoine and Clark, a little store with $800. He got robbed. He was selling transistor radios and this and that. He got robbed. He said, "I'm never going to sell another thing," he says, "unless it's got a serial number." And he started selling instruments from a little 300 square foot area. But he didn't just sell instruments. he insisted that you try the instrument. His motto is, you can't buy it if you can't play it. If you don't try it, you don't know if you want it. And he slowly built his business. That's where we got the model, because Steve didn't have everything. If we don't have it, you don't need it.
We hear that and show them all the time.
Yeah, that was the model, and that model is actually trademarked to Steve's, and he'd do all sorts of things. Like, two boys should come in on a Friday night, and they buy two huge speakers. What happens? Steve's talking to them. He says, you bring your car here. He says, I'll help you put it in the car. No, we're taking it on the bus. Where are you taking to? Oh, we live in Sherbrooke, Quebec. Well, how are you going to get it? Well, we're going to take it on the bus. No, he says, you come back here at 9:00. We'll put him in my car and I'll drive you guys home. And that's exactly what he did.
That's totally amazing. Wow, what a gentleman.
He'd walk into church basements, anywhere where there's a band playing, give some guitar strings, some picks, some drumsticks, and say, I'm Steve's Music. Come on down and see me. I got the best prices in the city. And then he'd go bowling. He'd show up at the bowling alley at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning.
And you did a lot of networking at the bowling alley. Actually, are you a competitive player yourself?
Sorry?
Are you a competitive player? Because you did a lot of bowling.
Competitive with myself, yeah. I, as you know, I'm not a youngster, but my average is a 185 on big pins.
Okay.
So yeah, I am competitive.
I don't know much about bowling though. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Your average bowlers are in the 140 to 150 range.
Isn't it at the bowling alley that you actually met Steve Kerman?
Yes, but it wasn't kind of thing. Steve's wife and myself have been friends for over 65 years. Since we were kids. And we used to go bowling at Parry Lanes. Steve used to go to bowling at Parry Lanes. That's where he met her. And we became friends before Steve's Music was even an idea. And we'd hang out because his wife, Leah, and myself were good friends. We attended the same parties. We went to the same restaurants and everything. So, yeah, I had a good personal relationship with Steve long before I ever got a phone call from him to come work for him. And even that, I didn't know he wanted me to work for him. Leah called me up and said, Steve knows somebody that might be able to use you. Give him a call at 11 o'clock. So I did. He was on the floor. The receptionist said, Mr. Steve's on the floor. He can't be bothered. I said, fine. Tell him it's Norm. And I'll try him in 15 minutes. And if I can't speak to him, then I'll call him another time. I had just finished working 72 straight hours putting the store together that had to be opened at 9 o'clock that day. And the woman who owned this store had done nothing outside of purchase of stuff. No shelves were up. No, none of the product was priced. Nothing. It was all sitting in boxes in the back room.
Oh.
And I came in with 4 other people, and in 72 hours we put the store together.
Amazing.
I used to do that. That was long before I worked for Steve and a few other people. This was a side business that I had. Going in and redesigning your store to increase the flow of people, working with your staff on how you approach somebody to, what do you want? And how to back away very nicely if the person gets a little bit aggressive when you ask, can I help you? And so I had gone back to doing that just 2 weeks before Leah called me. Because I do have a good network of friends that I was able to do things through. And I went to see him. He came up and he says, I got a bookstore. I'm not making money. I don't know why. He says, my manager's leaving. I want you to take it over. You know the book business. I want you to take it over. I want to make money there. Oh, let me go see it. His daughter was working there. I had her call. Steve called her, tell her she doesn't recognize me. Went in, saw what was going on, came back upstairs. And one of his general managers says, geez, we got a nice bookstore, eh? As Jenny knows. Not with me. I still, your bookstore looks like a piece of shit. What do you mean? I said, you got holes in your wall. You got books leaning forward. You got 3 guys busy playing pocket pool and talking to each other. And one salesperson, that girl, whoever she is, running around, serving everybody. At which point Steve says, you want to take it over? I said, yes. I said, but first, who's my boss? And they, well, we're the general managers. I said, who's my boss? And Steve turned around and said to them, he only works for one person. That's the way he's worked his whole life. I'm your boss. Nobody tells you what to do but me. And for 20 odd years, 22, 24 years that Steve was alive, nobody could tell me what to do. And now, still, nobody can tell me what to do. I answer to his wife, who's the president of the company, but his son, Michael, is involved in the operations of the company. I've known Mike since he's a baby. He's far from a baby. He's a shrewd businessman like Steve was. And if he needs something done, he will come and he'll ask me, can you do this or can you do that? And it's like I said, there's no set definition for my job. Today I went in, I'm not working. Because of the COVID, I can't go into the schools, but we have to get things prepared for when we can. So I went in and I was busy dragging a Ready Rack around because I want to put Ready Rack up in a specific area to put the rental instruments on. We're short-staffed, so not much to do today. I went in and I spent 3 hours doing that, getting everything prepared. So next time I walk in, somebody will help me. We'll put it all together and that'll be that.
Norm, all of these big bands stopping by in Montreal and performing, whether it be the Scorpions, Céline Dion, whichever artist you can think of, they all stop at Steve's music shop. How is it that Steve gained so much notoriety over the years?
When Steve entered the business, you had Archambault and 4 piano stores. Archambault sold brass and woodwind. Nobody sold guitars. Nobody sold drums. And if you did, it wasn't to play rock and roll. But Steve sold the stuff for rock and roll. And Steve's attitude of, come on in and try it. I mean, in the small space he had at the beginning, the one store, then the one adjacent to it, which you walk through to, you could have somebody banging on a keyboard, somebody else hitting drums, and someone else on a guitar or bass trying it. It's the vibe. And Steve's created the vibe of rock and roll in the city. Anybody that wanted anything came to Steve's. Céline Dion, when she started. And they are still clients of Steve's music. She'd come in, and Renee would rent a microphone and a speaker for the church basement she was playing in. But Steve's attitude, especially in those days when he was hands-on with everything, If you were a local band trying to do something, you got to break on the rental price.
And especially if they were younger kids, like in their teens.
Yeah. And he did it. And slowly over time, Steve started to earn that reputation of this is the place you've got to go. It's rock and roll. Band members would drop in from touring bands. Didn't know who they were. And if you did know who they were, you didn't say anything. And liked the way they were treated. Liked the vibe of the store. And that's one thing our stores have is this rock and roll vibe. So it makes a difference.
Yeah, go on.
We had a lot of, as a matter of fact, that's somebody who you should talk to, is a gentleman I took to our Toronto store from NAM. And we came in the back door in Toronto. I came through the alley and I went to the shipping door on a Saturday because you can't park on Queen Street anywhere. And the minute he stepped in that door, he looked at me and he says to me, you can feel the vibe. And that's what Steve's has, is that rock and roll vibe, and always has. So,
Norm, you were saying that Steve's philosophy was you can have that 9-year-old boy walking into the store, pick up the Fender Stratocaster, that's a $2,000 guitar.
that's right.
He's gonna let that little kid try the guitar. And the whole philosophy behind that was, Norm, I'll let you explain that. You can say it best.
Okay. Steve was a very, very shrewd businessman. You go to buy a car, you're buying yourself a Chevy Biscayne. That's like the entry level of Chevrolet. But the salesman says to you, hey, you know what? Why don't you try driving this Cadillac? Let's take it for a test drive. Have some fun. That sticks with you. It might take you 10 years. It might take you 15 years. But one day you're going to buy that Cadillac and you're going to buy it from that salesman. And Steve's attitude was, the worst thing that can happen is if it falls and gets damaged, that's what I pay guitar repair people for. Try it. My own grandson came into the store. Instead of coming to see me, my daughter took him into the guitar department first so he could see all the guitars hanging. Well, one of our salesmen grabbed him, put him on a stool, and gave him a flying V to play.
Oh, wow.
And I get a phone call because one of the guys knows who it is and says, get up here, your grandson's in here playing a flying V. My grandson was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
Because you want to instill the love of music, and you do not want to discourage them. You can't afford this at the moment, but remember something, you're just learning. So let's get you something to learn with, and then you'll work your way up to this. And that's exactly what it is. I've sold flutes, trumpets, clarinets, entry level to youngsters. They have come back when I was in the store to see me. I have given them something for it, and they have stepped up to an intermediate level. They have stepped up from that to a professional because they became professionals. And this is what it is. It's anybody can sell, but people like to buy from people they can trust and from friends. So the most important thing a salesman can do is to build that friendship first. And again, you've got to be fair. You've always got to be fair. If they want something, and there's been many a time where I could have sold a $2,000 trumpet, but the kid would put it down. It was a semi-professional. The bore was smaller. It took more breath. And the salesman, oh, geez, I'm going to make a great commission. Oh, look, there's a $50 spiff on it. Wow, I'm going to make money. No, I back them down to the entry level at $700 and tell them, after you've learned on this one, come on back and see me and we'll work on that one.
Okay, Norm, you were saying before a flying V.
Yeah,
For the audience members who don't know what a flying V is, all you got to do is look up for a picture of the Scorpions, and Rudolf Schenker,
that's
the
right.
rhythm guitarist of the Scorpions, plays a flying V, which is made by Gibson, by the way.
Gibson, that's right. And it, but it's a rock and roll guitar. Yeah, and this is it. I mean, one of the funniest stories with Steve was he called his wife, called Leah at work, and he's talking to her. And one of his general managers, Steve's office used to be just a little bit above. Steve, get down here. The police are here. I won't go into the language that Steve used, but I'm busy. Don't leave me. No, you got to get down here. You don't understand. The police are here. So Steve gets off the phone and walks downstairs. Damn right the police were there. Sting in the band. He thought it was the Montreal cops. I mean, the Rolling Stones. We're fortunate that our repair people are also love their job. The last tour of the Rolling Stones in Montreal, their saxophone player, his something happened to his sax on the Saturday night performance. Our atelier came in Sunday, repaired it for him, didn't charge him for it because it was adjustments and things, and ended up going to the show and having backstage passes.
Well, as for the instrument, that must have been an emotional rescue.
Yeah, it's when Steve passed away, it was a tragedy. I mean, I got the call 8 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning. I think I stopped crying around 11:30.
Oh, yeah, you guys were friends, and you went
Yeah,
way back.
we were good friends.
You were not only an employee; you guys were actually you had a
Yeah,
relationship outside of business.
yeah, definitely. We went out to eat. We bowled. We did all sorts of different things. The phone calls that came from world-renowned artists
Wow.
that knew him and loved him was amazing. And Steve was a very shy person. Um, he was honored by the Montreal Jazz Festival for his work and dedication to the music industry as a retailer. It took four of us to convince Steve to accept the award. The only reason, and at that year at the Jazz Festival, we had oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, damn it. Jim Remo from we had Remo was being honored as the manufacturer of the year. And we're sitting
Uh,
in Steve.
those are drum skins, aren't they?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. He's the first one to make plastic drum skins. He had the Beatles. And we're sitting in Steve's office. There's myself, Giulio Cartalesso, who was another buyer and a good friend of Steve's, Steve. And at the time, Jean-Marc André, who was the vice president of Spectra at the time. And see, well, what do I have to do it for? Why should I do it? I mean, and finally he says, do I have to make a speech? And Jean-Marc said, no. He said, okay, I'll do it. So here we are in the hotel. President Jazz Festival is presenting Steve with this beautiful piece as for his dedication and work as a retailer in Montreal and in the country. Steve gets it, looks at him and goes, thank you very much, and walks off the stage.
Oh wow, no speech.
Remo gets his, and 45 minutes later, we're all still standing there listening to Remo.
Oh my God. So Steve wasn't one who liked fanfare.
No, Steve was basically a shy person and put it for business, he had to put it aside, but he did not like to be all over in public.
So, how many Steve's outlets are there today, and what are the services exactly offered at Steve's?
Okay, we have 5 outlets. We have our flagship store, which is Montreal, which is on St. Catherine between de Bouillon and Henri Julien, which is 3 blocks east of St. Lawrence. We have one in Greenfield Park. We have a third one in Dollard des Ormeaux. Then we have our store in Ottawa on Rideau, which is getting close to 50 years old. We have our store in Toronto, which is also getting close to that. And basically, our intention and our hope is to sell people's dreams and that they come true in the way of music.
And over the years, how has Steve's music store have had to adapt with the change in technology? Was it very difficult for the store to do so?
No, we're very fortunate. Michael is very progressive and forward moving. Our managers, they're all young managers now, are hip into what's going on and as to what's happened. We know they get a lot of phone calls of questions and things because of the internet. We have an internet division as well, which does very well. And they know with the internet, with the customer still likes to come in and feel something. The most successful bookstores are those that have just got a pine table with divisions in it that a person can lean forward into. People looking at books like to touch, like to feel. Somebody buying a guitar wants to touch it, wants to feel it. You can't do that on the internet, which is the problem. A cute thing was, woman had come into the store, looked at a guitar, told us we're $100 too expensive. And the salesman said, I'm sorry, man, but we've got the best price in the city. Well, I can get it cheaper. He says, there's nothing I can do. About a month later, I get a phone call from one of the managers. He says, we got somebody on the phone. We're having a problem. Can you handle it? Sure. Yes, ma'am. I got this guitar. This guitar should have cost me $550, and I paid over $750 for the guitar. I had to pay shipping. I had to pay dude. I said, so she says, I want you to take it back. I said, where did you buy it? What do you mean? I said, where did you buy the guitar? You didn't buy it from us because your phone number doesn't come up in my computer system. Oh, no, I bought it on the internet. I said, then go back to the internet to get your money. Yeah, but you sell the exact same guitar. I said, it's got nothing to do with it, ma'am. The money didn't come into my cash, so it does not go out of my cash.
But of all the nerve, I mean, how can someone...
But that's typical. I mean, I did correspondence with karaoke. We used to be huge in it. And this woman sends me an email. She wants such and such a song by Taylor Swift. So I go through my Bible, which gives me all the titles and things, and I say, I've got a karaoke disc that's got 8 songs on it. Once, full version, second time, minus the vocals. This is what it costs. Are you in? This. If you wish to have it, please let me know. She sends me back an email. Yes, she wants it. Fine. We will call you for your credit card number, and we'll pay the shipping for it. Now, I've got these emails to say karaoke disc. Can't be clearer than that. She gets it. She calls up and starts screaming it again at one of the general managers. He says, well, that's the bookstore. You're going to have to speak to the buyer there. So she calls me up, screaming and yelling. This isn't a book. No, it's the karaoke disc that you wanted. I never ordered a karaoke disc. Yes, you did. Well, you got to take it back. I said, you pay for the shipping for it to come back. I will take a 20% restocking charge because now it's used and I have to discount it to sell it. Well, you can just re-shrink wrap it. No, ma'am, I cannot. It's used. So if you decide to send it back, send it back. I will take the 20% off and refund them, and we will send you a check for the difference. Can't do more.
Norm, this hour has just flown right by. Where has the time gone? Norm, we just have enough time for your closing comments. Where do we go from here? What are your plans for the future? Are you going to be continuing as director of education in schools, or do you have other plans?
It's kind of a two-edged sword. I was not in a great position when Steve hired me. Oh, hi, Leah. And his friend, good friend, soft heart, he gave me a job. I've done the job. There's no argument. When I turned 65, I wanted to start training somebody to take over from me. Actually, when I turned 60, and we won't mention most of the words that Steve said, but basically it ended up that so long as you're healthy and you can walk through that door, you have a job for life. And I would really, really miss it. We're a family. And I love what I do. I love going into the schools and working with the kids. And then 4 years later, I walk into the high school and there's that same kid playing in high school. And a lot of them, music's important. Music uses both sides of your brain. No other activity does that.
And Norm, just to close off over here, I'm sorry we've run out of time, but one last thing. What is it that you can say to inspire youngsters who want to get into the music industry and the music education at school?
It's like reading a book. You've got to start young. You've got to love what you're doing and hope along the way that you've got fantastic teachers. And I visit a lot of schools and I see the dedication of the music teachers. I cannot think of one music teacher anywhere, whether it be in Quebec or Ontario or the Maritimes, that I have met, that doesn't put in at least an extra 50 to 60 hours a week at home for their kids. And that's what's going to keep the music industry running. Not a parent pushing.
Norm, I'm sorry, we have to go. Time constraints. Thank you so much for being on the show. And like we agreed just before we went on the air, we'll be expecting you backstage with our greeting crew. We're going to have our own little backstage party. And a big thank you to Miss Leah Kerman for tuning in tonight. And to all of the audience members, thank you once again. And Norm, thank you once again for being part of our show.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It has been a great pleasure, and I have enjoyed it greatly.
Thank you, Norm. We'll be with you in a couple of moments.
Okay.
There you have it, folks. Tonight's guest was Mr. Norm Zimmerman, who is the Director of Education for Schools at Steve's Music Shop. He's been a member of Steve's for the past 27 years. Thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in to what was an absolutely exciting show. Quick reminder, this upcoming Wednesday at noon hour out of the box. It's a podcast I share with my wonderful co-host, Esther Brzezinski. You want to tune in? That's this Wednesday at noon. Next week on not noon hour out of the box, but actually Rob's Inner Circle. That's what happens when you have two podcasts. Next week's guest on Rob's Inner Circle, they're going to be Mr. Corey DeMeyer, is a former Red Bull world champion athlete that turned stuntman and the recipient of the 2020 Taurus World Stunt Award for his work in Tarantino's Academy Award-winning nominated film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And he'll be accompanied by his creative partner, Mr. Sammy Horowitz of the short film, Danny Boy. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be seeing you next week, same time, same place. Ciao.